The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
And we're prepared, and we're doing a great job with it, and it will go away. Just stay calm. It will go away. We want to protect our shipping industry, our cruise industry, cruise ships. We want to protect our airline industry, very important. But everybody has to be vigilant and has to be careful. But be calm. It's really working out, and a lot of good things are going to happen. The consumer is ready. The consumer is so powerful in our country with what we've done with tax cuts and regulation cuts and all of those things. The consumer has never been in a better position than they are right now. So a lot of good things are going to happen. Thank you very much.
3 days later.
And taking early, intense action, we have seen dramatically fewer cases of the virus in the United States than are now present in Europe. The European Union failed to take the same precautions and restrict travel from China and other hotspots. As a result, a large number of new clusters in the United States were seeded by travelers from Europe. After consulting with our top government health professionals, I have decided to take several strong but necessary actions to protect the health and well-being of all Americans. To keep new cases from entering our shores, we will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days.
Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show, ladies and gentlemen, non-gender conforming individuals. It's always a pleasure to have you here. That was President Trump last night giving an Oval Office address. I think probably one of the first ones I've ever seen him do with regard to the coronavirus. And the first clip that you heard of him was just a few days ago, where he was talking about the industries, the airline industries and the shipping industries. The majority of what he spoke about last night was 100. I mean, it was like all about the economy. And folks, Donald Trump is going to get a lot of people killed. And when I say this, I want you to know I am actually pulling for him to win this. Like, this is one of the things that I need the president of the, I don't need the president of the United States to get war right, because we don't need to go to war. Right. There's been few, if any, occasion in our history where we actually had to go to war. Right? People always try to say, you need to stand behind the president, show your patriotism. Okay, I'm standing behind the president. I need him to get this coronavirus reaction right, because we're too late. We're not being proactive. We're having to react. I need him to get this right because lives depend on it. We're looking at a 1% to 3% mortality rate concentrated in older populations. But when you consider that our government is run all by old people, like, I don't know, exactly how this virus came about, but I do know one thing. It is the most revolutionary virus that we've ever seen. In that the transmission rate is so high, it is growing exponentially, the NBA just shut down the entire season. The NBA season is over. I was trying to tell a friend yesterday to avoid the game, and you can't tell everybody everything. People got mad at me like, I know what to do. Okay. And while they're at the game, the NBA season ended right there in the middle of the game. I only bring that up to you because we're faced with multiple complications with regard to this. One, our feckless government. I'm going to be honest with you. I hope that you're listening to my podcast at home. The government is behind the curve. We're on the same trajectory. If you look at the graph, if you look at the data, we are on the same trajectory as Italy, who are now, they've quarantined basically the entire country. It has gotten so bad that doctors there are having to choose who's going to live and who's going to die. And in some cases, it's the elderly that they just are not going to treat. If you're over a certain age, they're not going to treat you. I mean, they're dealing with a full-blown, it is officially a pandemic. So that's the first thing, the complication of the government not doing what it needs to do right away. and Donald Trump focus on the industry. The second thing that makes this complicated is people who minimize this. People are so, I don't know, there's this, maybe I need to go look at the stars so I can figure this one out, because I'm like, there is a train of thought, a way of thinking in humans that looks at an impending disaster and says, oh, it's not going to happen, versus doing what's necessary to be prepared for it to happen just in case it does happen. See, I'm planning for the worst, hoping for the best. There's people who hope for the best and don't do anything to plan for the best or the worst. I know I just massacred that comparison, but whatever. I'm not going to record it again. But you get what I'm saying. You have people who look at they could be presented with the data and they're like, oh, this is just like the flu. You know, we don't give the flu enough attention. 60,000 people die every year from the flu. Yeah. Okay. The death mortality rate, and I said it wrong on the show. It's not 1% for the flu. It's 0.1% death rate, mortality rate for the flu, 0.1%, which means even at 1%, the coronavirus is 10 times deadlier than the seasonal flu. Okay. So all these people, I don't know, what is it? It's infuriating because you can't cut through the thickness of some people's heads. I won't even say their brains, because you just can't get through their skulls that this is not a seasonal flu. It's not something to be compared to the seasonal flu with 1 to 3% mortality rate. Unless you just don't give a shit about people who have compromised immune systems or old people. I mean, I've got a lot of old people still in my life that I would like not to die. But at 1%, they're talking, one report I read last night says upwards of 150 million. Half of America is going to get this. Half of America could potentially get this. Now, nothing I'm saying to you right now is designed to make you fearful. What we're doing here is discussing, one, what I think you should do. Two, like, what are we going to do as a society when we have people like Donald Trump in power who make the situation worse than people at home whose skulls are so thick that they can't get it through their heads that this is not a seasonal flu. And then number three, people are so tied. Now, this isn't your fault. This isn't my fault. This is a fault of our system. We are all so tied to this system that we really are. Most people are making the conscious decision this morning to go to work anyway, even though they know that we are at that stage of this pandemic where it could blow up it's getting ready to blow up exponentially. So people are making the conscious decision to go to work because they fear not being able to pay their bills. That is a slavery to capitalism. That is not, I'm not saying slavery to insult anyone. I'm saying you are chained so much to, all of us are, all of us are so chained to capitalism that we will put our lives at risk in order to pay our bills. That's why I said at the beginning that the coronavirus is probably by far the most revolutionary virus that I've seen, that this nation has ever seen, because the way we survive this is by the government being efficient, 2, by people accepting how real this really is, 3, by everyone breaking off the chains of capitalism and going home. Work from home if you need to. Watch television. Write a book. Do some yoga at home. But stay out of the public spaces because, as I just found out last night, not only is washing your hands and not touching your face necessary, but you have to be careful not to breathe the air of someone who sneezed. It's transferred through droplets. And I'm going to read directly from the CDC's fact sheet. How does COVID-19 spread? The virus that causes COVID-19 probably emerged from an animal source, but is now spreading from person to person. The virus is thought to spread mainly between people who are in close contact with another within 6 feet through respiratory droplets produced when an infected person coughs or sneezes. It may also be possible that a person can get COVID-19 by touching the surface or object that has the virus on it and then touching their own mouths, nose, and possibly their eyes. But this is not thought to be the main way the virus spreads. Well, now we know that the virus lasts on surfaces for days. It lasts in the air for hours. According to health.harvard.edu, this is what they said, quote, the new coronavirus is a respiratory virus known to spread by upper respiratory secretions, including airborne droplets after coughing or sneezing. The virus that causes COVID-19 has also been detected in the stool of certain people, so we currently cannot rule out the possibility of the infection being transmitted through food by an infected person who has not thoroughly washed their hands. In the case of hot food, the virus would likely be killed by cooking. Okay. So there are so many ways that this, and if nothing else, look at the trajectory. We have gone from 1 case to 3 cases to now 1,300 cases in the United States alone. 2 nights ago, 200 individuals died in Italy in one night. So I am not saying this to scare anyone, because the majority of us are going to do just fine. The majority of us are, a lot of people aren't even going to feel any symptoms because their immune system is so strong. But there are those of us whose immune systems are compromised. And the older you get, the more compromised it gets. Now, a lot of people, and I think I've even repeated this, that it's mainly affecting the elderly. It is concentrated. The mortality rate increases as you get older. But there are now reports of people as in their 40s dying. And I'm sorry, I turned 40 in June, so I consider myself in that margin of error. All right. So we just need to, number one, stop listening to people who are trying to tell you that this is just the flu. This is a government conspiracy. This is just a pharmaceutical conspiracy trying to get your money. They do this every year. Okay. Do they cancel the NBA season every year? Tom Hanks and his wife, they got coronavirus down in Australia. They were able to get treatment because Australia has a better healthcare system than we have here in the United States, or more accessible. Anyway, lots to come. We're going to have the patron party because, well, we're going to keep partying. We'll be back.
Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and support the Benjamin Dixon Show.
And here we go. Very special welcome to all of our patrons. Thank you so much for all that you do. Ben Burton, welcome aboard. Will, thank you for becoming a patron. Bobby Hodges, Travis N, Jesse, B. Moore F, William Bram, Drew Dickinson, Gina Winbright, Bethany Madison. Okay, no, Bethany Madsen. Patrick is good. John Hotman, thank you so much for becoming a patron. Foolish Moose, thank you for becoming a patron. Mindy Guilford, thank you for becoming a patron. I'm horrible at this, I promise you. Charles Bond, thank you for becoming a patron. And Charles, thank you for having an easy name. And Danielle Butler, thank you so much for becoming a patron. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family by going to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and getting twice the content with none of the ads like you're going to hear right here. All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, non-gender conforming, non-binary individuals. Thank you so much for being a part of this experience. I am not trying to be an alarmist. I'm trying to be a realist. The alarmist side of me actually started to quarantine my family last week. Okay. If you want to know what alarmism is, it was last week when I first saw how close it was in the United States. I was like, okay, you know what? It's time for us to lock down. So I started prepping my family to do that. When we got a case here in Fulton County and not too far away from our schools, I was like, okay, that's it. We're not going to school. Because by the time our government reacts, most governments for that matter, it's too late. Now, I am grateful. As best we can tell, the mortality rate is low-ish, still way worse than the regular seasonal flu. But it's low-ish in the sense that most people who get this are going to survive. I'm grateful for that. But most people who get this, they become extremely contagious before they even start showing signs and symptoms. So you're not guaranteed that the person who's shaking your hand or that you're doing business with or that you're canoodling with, where the hell did I pull that word from? Just because they're not showing any signs doesn't mean that they don't have it. In fact, they could be highly contagious. Which means like we could be passing it to all of our seniors and not even realizing it. So it's vitally important that we take this serious. All right, now let's talk about the politics of this. The presidential campaign, I don't see how this really plays out. I don't know how the Democratic Party is going to handle this primary process, because we're literally asking people, especially older people, they're putting their lives at risk going out to vote. All of the campaign events should have ceased. I know you're excited about canvassing for your candidate, for Bernie Sanders in particular, but I'm going to be honest with you. It's time to bring that to an end. It is. Because, well, yeah. Because our healthcare industry is not robust enough to handle this pandemic, which means there are going to be patients sleeping in hallways. They're probably going to have to go into schools and start setting up in gymnasiums. So not only should you not do it to take care of yourself, but you should do it. You should stop canvassing to make sure that you're going to help take care of our system and that we're not going to be putting our healthcare providers at unnecessary risk. I'm saying this because I haven't heard anyone say it yet. They're canceling events. Good. Cancel the events. Tom Perez is talking about he has not considered canceling the Democratic Convention, but I saw the Democratic Convention being canceled long before most of you were even taking this virus seriously, because I am an alarmist. I have no problem confessing to it, but sometimes we're right. And I want to be wrong. But I saw the convention being like, there's no way they'll be able to handle the convention. China is talking about them not having a grasp on this until June. And this has been transpiring there, spreading there since January. We're 2 months behind everyone else's curve. We're looking at August at the earliest in terms of getting it under control. And that's only if we take the same draconian measures that China took and that Italy is taking. Not because that was absolutely necessary, but it's probably necessary now because Donald Trump has bumbled and fumbled the response and now has created the conditions for this to be even worse than it had to be. Now, there are a lot of fascinating politics and economics to be tied into this, and I'm going to talk about that in great detail. I think what I'll start doing, I'll do my part. I am going to start releasing the full episodes to everybody. I'm not going to be asking you for Patron money when we don't really even know what money is going to be like. Here's what I mean. Because of the way that Donald Trump handled this virus, there's a strong possibility that we're going to have to go on lockdown around this country. Exponential growth is exponential growth, people. I mean, this is spreading at an exponential rate. South Korea got it under control. I just read this morning. South Korea got it under control, right? And then they had a relapse because of one person. Patient 31 is what they labeled this guy. Patient 31. They had it under control at 30 patients, but patient 31 turned around and infected 1,000 people himself. 1,000. Like, I don't know what this guy did for a living, but this dude infected 1,000 people by himself. I don't know what's bigger than exponential growth. I haven't done math since college. Okay. So I don't know what's bigger than exponential growth, but I know that that's absurd. And that's what we're potentially looking at when you look at our country and the way we're not taking it seriously. And the way you have all these people who, the same other people, that's what I'm gonna start saying. The same other people who try to sell you noni juice and try to sell you all of these herbal teas and shit to fix your health. Now they're telling you not to take this serious. So the way this virus was uniquely designed to screw America, because we got Donald Trump as president. We have a lot of people who are more convinced in their grandmama's remedies than they are the CDC data. And then you have the rest of us who are tied to capitalism, and we're terrified of staying home because we're afraid that Rent-A-Center is going to come and get our TV. That was funny to me. I'm sorry. It's bad when you got to laugh at your own jokes. So we have the perfect combination of forces to turn this into a complete disaster. No, I'm not going to make this. I'm not going to make the whole hour public. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get this damn camera set up for real, and we'll do a live stream. So instead of the whole hour, I'm going to do a live stream, and I'm going to do my best to get phone calls because I know people have stuff to say. So that's going to be the compromise. I'm going to keep the Patron stuff separate. If you want to get the Patron stuff, you can come to patreon.com/the BPD show. And at a bare minimum, you can get whatever you want without having to, make any real financial commitment. But what I'm going to do for the public is we're going to start streaming live, and I'm going to start taking phone calls because I know a lot of people they're worried about this. They're concerned. And I think that we should be concerned. I just think we have to be vigilant. Like, I think today, and I'm going to hurry up and get this episode out. I think today and tomorrow are going to be critical days in terms of how fast this grows. If enough people can stay home, we can flatten the curve some. And by flatten the curve, what I mean is instead of having steep exponential growth, we can slow it down. I don't know if we can halt it. And I don't know. Look, I know my reach is small. I'm only reaching about 10,000 listeners, downloads a day. But my God, exponential growth. If I can get 100 of you to stay home and not go out here and get infected and then turn around and spread it, then we've done our part. Sometimes that's all we could do. At a bare minimum, tell your boomers in your life. Tell anyone who's like 45 and up, because we're assuming that it's. And here's the other thing. I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast last night where he was interviewing a infectious disease expert. He's one of those guys that travels around the world studying diseases and seeing where they started and how creating vaccines. So he's an expert, and he was like, the other factors that exacerbate this: obesity. Well, shit, I'm done. High blood pressure. I mean, I don't particularly have high blood pressure. My family's kind of lucky with that. People with who smoke because it's a respiratory disease. And I'm like, well, I know tobacco counts, but does marijuana count? I don't know. I don't know. So we have a lot of high risk factors here in the United States that we're not taking into account for. And we don't even have the data on because our system is starting to get overwhelmed already. Because we're hitting that initial stage of exponential growth. We're still a few days ahead of Italy. If we shut down schools now, and listen, there are a lot of politics involved in this. There's a lot of economics involved in this, and there's a lot of real life involved in this. Even with shutting down schools, while I think that's a good idea, there are a lot of nurses who depend on the fact that their kids are at school all day. And if their kids are not at school all day, then how are they going to go to work and be a nurse? So there are a lot of things to take in consideration, which is why I say, if you can stay home, you can help out those who can't stay home by helping flattening the curve, helping to flatten the curve. Does that make sense? All right. All right. Okay, now let's talk about the economics and the politics, the political economy of this, because here's the situation. More people are going to survive and be just fine than our economy. This is designed to kill our economy. Because of the way Donald Trump is handling this, it's going to require some massive quarantines, massive social distancing, working from home. but a lot of jobs can't be done from home, which means a lot of people are just going to go without work, which means you have a cycle. You have a snowballing effect of people who now are going to be unable to pay their bills. And then the potential of foreclosures, repossessions, evictions, and utilities being disconnected, right? But it goes further because it snowballs to the point where now businesses can't survive because nobody's going to be able to come and eat at their restaurant, right? But it goes even further. Bill collectors, unless these companies have been innovative enough to set up their bill collecting services through a teleconferencing system. In other words, unless your bill collector can work from home, ain't nobody going to phone centers where all they do is talk and sneeze and cough all day long. That's going to be shut down pretty soon too. I wish I could have given you all this last week. I saw all this coming last week, but last week everybody would have been like, "Oh, Ben, you're so dramatic. Oh, Ben, you're such an alarmist," right? So now, but we're still in the window of opportunity to prevent a lot of disaster. But let me keep going with the political economy. Let me get off that. I digress. So there's a snowballing effect that's going to crash our economy in a way that we have never seen. How do we survive it? Well, we survive it. Humans survive it by staying home, especially the elderly. Let's not get infected. Side note, let me go on a tangent real quick, and I'll come back and answer the question about bills and the political economy of this. Boris Johnson of the UK is actually considering trying to develop herd immunity by infecting as many people as they possibly can. Now, this was just something that he floated. This is not a definitive track that I think anyone is going to seriously take. But I also heard the same thing from the CDC expert who was speaking last night about the same topic, is that that's a possible way to create herd immunity. The only reason I bring that up is not to suggest that anyone goes out and tries to catch it. Stay your butt home. I bring that up because you need to understand the scale of this. That if people are floating ridiculous ideas like that in a couple of weeks may not even seem that ridiculous, that this is a real deal. Okay. I obviously am not an expert at any of this. I'm reading directly from the CDC website, health.harvard.org. And that's all I'm going to give you because I don't know anything about any of this except for the political economy of it. The government is going to have to suspend or put a moratorium on all debt collection. All evictions have to stop. All foreclosures have to stop. All repossessions of vehicles has to stop. All disconnects of utilities, lights, water, gas, all of that has to stop. Why? Because people need to be free to not go out and get sick. So long as people feel the pressure to stay inside of the system, to continue paying their bills, or the fear of having their material possessions taken from them, or the fear of having the house over their head taken, the roof over their head taken from them, then people are going to go out and work and they're going to spread the virus even more. Now, for some people, they don't have any option because of the type of work that they do. They are essential employees, essential staffers. They have to be there. Military, police officers, firefighters, those first responders, they have to be at work. They don't have the option. That's part of their contract. But for those of us going to work at GameStop, I get it. I get it. You are so accustomed to having the ever looming fear of your bills to drive you to work. And what I'm saying is today and tomorrow and the next day, Saturday in particular, these next few days, I don't know how many days, but looking at the curve, there's a curve, and I wish this was a video show. I could show it to you, but there's a curve on my Twitter timeline that shows you the track of Italy's breakout. And I think they have a population of about 60 million compared to America's breakout. Right now, we're at about day 9, day 10 of their curve. Somewhere around day 12, day 13, they had to shut down schools. We have a country of over 327 million people. The possibility of 150 million people being infected. with a death rate of 1%, even just 1%, how much is that, ladies and gentlemen? That's potentially 1.5 million people that's going to be concentrated in our elderly populations and compromised people with compromised immune systems. We can help out by staying home. If you can, if you're not an essential worker. The biggest challenge, though, is going to be for you to say F the system. That's why I say this is the most revolutionary virus I've ever seen, because it's going to require a lot of people to look at all of their financial situation, look at all of their debt, look at all their bill collectors, look at the upcoming rent, look at everything around them, and basically say F the system, because you got to protect your household. I'm not going to bring it back. I'm not going to test this theory about our kids being less susceptible to this. I'm not. I got 3 kids. One of them's 2 years old. If you can, if you can't, then you just be careful out there. Avoid people who are sneezing. You do all the things. If you can't, we're with you. We're going to support you. We love you. We got your back. Go and just be careful. But for the rest of us, we do our part because we have the privilege. We have the privilege of staying home. We're lucky enough to be in a career that we can work remotely. But more than anything else, if you can, reject this overwhelming urge to just continue like normal, because continuing like normal is going to quite literally exacerbate the situation. So the Dow had another drop, quite the precipitous drop, to be honest with you. According to Bloomberg.com, maybe I should not use Bloomberg.com as a source anymore. All things considered, never mind. That's not important. Stocks tumble with virus response missing markets wrap. The S&P 500 drop triggers circuit breaker for the second time in a week. Circuit breaker means it just cuts everything off. Says, hold on, we're not going to go any further than this. And they freeze the trading. Global stock gauge head for bear market. Crude oil retreats. So according to Bloomberg.com, they said this. We're tracking the latest on the coronavirus outbreak and the global response. The rout in global stocks deepened as investors showed a lack of faith in the U.S. and European policy responses to the worsening spread of the coronavirus. The S&P 500 index plunged as much as 8.5% before paring this drop somewhat, with trading settling into a range after an initial bout of selling triggered about a 15-minute NS New York Stock Exchange mandated halt. Trading will stop again if losses reach 13% at any time before 3:25 p.m. So anyway, the markets are crashing, and crashing is kind of I don't know, we'll see. They always figure out a way to survive. They always figure out a way to take care of capitalism. They'll be fine, right? What's fascinating about this is how much emphasis is being placed on the economy. Because like I said earlier in the show, I think Donald Trump and them realize that this is a much greater threat to our economy than the overall population. Now, I know that's a little solace for or no solace for people who are directly targeted by this virus, right? The people who are the most vulnerable to it. But in order to stop the spread, we have to consolidate ranks. We have to close down shop. We have to stay inside, which means we can't participate in this system. I swear on everything, this virus could not have been written more precisely to bring capitalism to its knees. Because capitalism only thrives with the participation, particularly consumerism, only thrives with our participation. And now we're literally in a situation where our participation can lead to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. And so this means the government will most certainly have to consider a universal basic income where they're sending, or they're not going to send it in the mail. They're going to just transfer a few $100, maybe $1,000, maybe $2,000 a month to every person in this country, so that we can at least salvage our online sales, our economy through the online economy. So they're going to have to do that. And then simultaneously, they're going to have to suspend or put a moratorium on mortgages, debt collection, all those types of things. That's the only, because we're honestly talking about this lasting a lot longer than people are talking. People are really discussing like they're stocking up for a week. Okay, that's cool. I get it. But there's no vaccine for this. And there's no vaccine for at least the next 6 months to a year. I'm sorry. Nope, wrong. A year to a year and a half. A safe vaccine that has been tested that can be distributed. So that means we either stop the spread by locking down, or maybe that idea that was an anathema from Boris Johnson, maybe that ends up being what we have to do. This is wild. 2020 is a hell of a year already, man. This has been, we're in month 3 and we've had more trauma in these first 3 months. Hell, Kobe's gone. I still sit back and think about that every now and then. Kobe Bryant and his daughter and all those people in that helicopter are gone. I know that's not the same type of magnitude, but just the sheer fact that just happened this year. And it feels like it was at least last year. So anyway, if you can, stay home. If you have elderly family members, demand that they stay home. Let's take as much pressure off of the healthcare industry as we possibly can by doing our part. Continue to wash your hands. Continue to keep your hands off your face. Avoid public places. Stop canvassing. I get it. I know everyone's excited, but we can't canvass our way through this. Stop canvassing. Stay home. Break yourself free from this system. Take care of your family first and foremost. Do not wait on the government to tell you what to do, because Donald Trump is currently in charge of the federal government. So, yeah, that should tell you everything you need to know. All right, that's it for this public show. Go to patreon.com/the BPD show, become a patron. And starting sometime, hopefully next week, I'll be able to take live callers, because I want to give you a chance to speak out and speak your mind. Patrons, stay tuned. Everyone else, I'll see you tomorrow.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.